Hello and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. Today I really wanted to do a new campaign in KSP, and for this campaign I'm bringing back a lot of mods that I tried in the past. I'm specifically talking about the Realism Overhaul mods together with the Real Solar System mods. And as you can see, this is not Kerbal in the background, which is the main feature of the Real Solar System mods, which is that it recreates our own solar system in KSP, which is certainly adds a really exciting, well, I guess you could say, level of difficulty to this game. And of course we have the Realism Overhaul mod, which adds a lot of different... I mean, it's connected to a lot of mods that does a lot of things to add parts, improve realism and difficulty, and the depth and complexity of the game. And I'm also running the realistic Progression 0 mods, which really improves, I think, the career mode. And now I'm not going to go into the details of all the features in the mods that I've installed, but I will say that it really all these mods really brings back the feeling that certainly I and probably a lot of people had when they first started playing KSP, which is just the difficulty of getting into orbit, for example, which is certainly a lot more difficult with a real-sized solar system. It really ups the delta V requirements. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start a new space agency. Now, I was thinking of naming it the Space Agency, the Society of Space Explorers, but it's kind of generic. It's usually I call my usually like to call my space agency NSA, and that can mean a lot of different things, but well, it could be the National Security Agency, certainly, but I'll leave that as a bit of a mystery for now. Now, what kind of logo should we use? Maybe this one. Okay. So let's get started. So, right off the bat, I get this remote tech window popping up, which where I can turn on and off remote tech, and I certainly want to keep remote tech enabled, but let me see. Yeah, I do like to turn signal delay off when I play with remote tech, because signal delay really adds a lot of I mean, some people may like playing with signal delay, which, well, to put it this way, if you don't know what signal delay does, it delays the radio signals that your probe in space receives, so that if your probe is, say, 2 light hours away from a command center or Earth, it takes 2 hours for the probe to execute the command it's given, or the input that you give. So you have to use, I think, MechJeb or Kerbal OS or something to really control your probe. So I'm going to turn this off just for gameplay reasons, really. Now, I want it to be more realistic, but, you know, I draw the line somewhere. Now, another mod is Kerbal Construction Time, and which basically means that all the rockets and the airplanes you build take time to construct, and you can upgrade your different buildings to improve production, the rate of production. Also speed of research. So we can start with upgrading. We have a total of 16 points, and we can start with upgrading the production capacity of the VAB. I'm just going to add a few points in there. Now, not quite remember what each of these does in the R&D tab. I think let's just put a couple of them. I mean, can't go that wrong. So it's not really a big deal. Now, TAC life support. So when you have crewed missions, you need oxygen, food, water, etc. to sustain your crew, and this is regulated by the TAC life support mod. I'm just going to go with default resource amounts. These settings affect all saves. Restart. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just have the default though. So I'm just going to X that out. And this I don't really need. So, this is our space center, and it's located on Cape Canaveral. We go to the tracking station. You can see that we have a whole bunch of different space centers to choose from, and this is us right here, Cape Canaveral. We can also launch from New Guinea if we want to, from is that Algeria, or this is Israel, I think, Baikonur, etc. We're going to stick with Cape Canaveral for now. Well, for our first rocket, we're just going to build something really rudimentary. A sounding rocket, basically. And this avionics window shows whether our spacecraft supports active control. So, since we're above our, I mean, we have 0 tons of capacity basically for our avionics. So when after we launch our rocket, we'll have no control over it. That's what it means. And we don't. There are a lot of airplane engines here, mostly a few rocket engines, but they're really not that impressive. So we do have this tiny Tim booster, which is a small solid-fueled booster originally used to power anti-ship missiles during World War II, used at the kick stage on the VAC Corporal, USA's first sounding rockets, and reused in modified form for the Araby line. Plume configured by real plume. Okay. Yeah, this is just a basic solid rocket booster we're going to use for our first rockets. Now, should we add... I think we'll add a parachute to here. This is the first rocket, and it's not going to look particularly pretty. But we do want to return this to Earth. And should we go? I would want to launch with it. Okay. Let's say we pick another parachute like this. Looks a little bit better as well. And we have the biological sample capsule, a thermometer, and a barometer. And let's just add an antenna as well. Not sure if we really need that, but we'll do anyway. And here we are. And we can't really do a lot with this, so let's just launch. And there we go. And it's has no control whatsoever, and due to our insufficient avionics, we can't control this. Now, I do want to collect some of the scientific observations. So, if I can just... come on now. There you go, log pressure data, and they analyze telemetry. So, all these mods adds a lot of scientific experiments as well. That's not in KSP originally. And luckily this launch was a success. It's not a particularly impressive launch, but we did some scientific observations and demonstrated the viability of rocket launching for science and exploration. So we earned 12 science from that and recovered all the parts. So we're going to go into the research and development building and go for some additional research. Might be the best option, or early avionics. I'm going to go for the early avionics because this adds a couple of scientific experiments which will increase the amount of research point we can get, which will make it easier to unlock all of these other things. And the research tree is really huge, and we only barely scratched the surface of it. But yeah, early avionics, which also, and we do own these automatically, so that's nice. Now, let's go to the launch of, or construction of our next rocket. So it's now time to design a new rocket, and this rocket I think will be designed to reach 100 kilometers at least, which is the other mission we had, to pass the Kármán line uncrewed. And we now have some new parts. We have this Sputnik PS1 and the 20-inch X-ray detector, which looks exactly like the Sputnik main body. So we're going to use that as our base for this rocket. And we'll stick a biological sample capsule on the bottom of this. We'll stick a parachute here, and it's not going to look particularly nice, but it will get the job done. We do want to recover this little probe. It's going to go significantly higher than the first one. And then all the instruments, I'm not sure, I think this main body includes a lot of instruments, but I'm just going to add these just to be sure that we don't miss anything. We have the option to add the Sputnik antennas. That's really is just for flavor though. I think we're going to go with this standard old antenna that we used last time as well, and stick that on there. So now we need a rocket that can actually reach 100 kilometers with this payload. And we're going to use the option of procedural fuel tanks, which is a really nice addition that is included in the mods that I have. So we can basically build any size fuel tank that you want. And we need to decide, well, we don't really have a lot of options in terms of engines. So maybe this would work if we put 4 of these Aerobee engines on the bottom of this. Now we're not going to have any control over this rocket as well. And I'm not going to launch with fairings either, because I don't think I really need that. And this, when I right click on this tank, it gives me the default option for the fuel that I can add, and it is an aniline. What does it say? This uses aniline furfural and IR-FNA. I don't... Maybe someone with a bit more technical background than me will know what all that is. And yeah, we have MechJeb here, which we're going to use to make sure we have, well, mainly enough thrust to actually get this off the ground, and we certainly do. We have plenty of thrusts, and we can make this a lot bigger actually. Can we do it just 2? Yeah, let's go with 2 engines. And oh, come on now. Yep, and so we should call this the I don't know, Explorer 1. Nah, that's Science 1. That sounds a lot better. Save, it will take 16 hours to build this. So let's go ahead and do it. And we are ready to launch, and the rocket actually sank a bit into the launch pad, but that doesn't matter, I think. Okay, let's do it. Oh yeah, I forgot something really important, which is to add, to cut the end. Oh no, it's crashed. Oh no. Yeah. And we're back, and apparently I completely forgot that these launch clamps are actually available from the start by default, unlike in vanilla KSP. So that could have saved me a lot of trouble. Well, not a lot of trouble, a little trouble, if I knew that. But now let's see if we can get this off the ground. 3, 2, 1, launch. It's just barely able to get off. I think it could have done with some more thrusts. Yeah, it takes too much time before this spin stabilization gets into effect. So that was another failed attempt. Let's go back and add more engines. And now we're back for another night launch this time, and I've now added 5 engines because I completely underestimated the amount of thrust I need for the spin stabilization to really kick in. If this was just vanilla KSP, I would have just turned SAS on and controlled the rocket manually, but that is not an option yet, due to the insufficient avionics of this rocket. So let's go for the launch. 3, 2, 1, go. Now we're talking. So this kicks off the spin quite rapidly, and we now stabilize the rockets certainly a lot more. I mean, it spins like crazy, but it's at least going mostly upwards, unlike the other rockets I had. So hopefully this will be enough to reach 100 kilometers. It may not be though. I think I may have underestimated the amount of delta V required for that. But we'll see. let's have a look at the map. It's not going far enough. So, you see, completely underestimated the amount of power actually needed here. But I can record some new scientific experiments, at least. So, yeah, just go ahead and let the rocket do its thing. Now, we'll see if the parachute is strong enough to dampen the impact that this entire rocket is going to have once it hits the ground. It's heading back down like a missile, spinning like crazy. Okay. Deploy parachutes. I can actually decouple this biological sample thing, but I would like to keep it. And yeah, that should be... the speed should be low enough to land safely. Well, mostly safely, I think. I have no idea where we're going to land though. It's completely dark, can't see anything. And we actually landed in the ocean. And, yep, let's just recover. And so we're ready for another launch, but this entire rig is tilted off to the side. I'm not sure if that's going to completely ruin our launch, but let's see. I think that's a bug actually. A lot of these mods are buggy, so anyway, let's go. 3, 2, 1. So if we could just keep that angle, I think it might make it nicely to space. But yeah, so it's getting off a nice spin now. It's going a little bit at an angle, but the angle isn't too aggressive, so I think we'll be alright. Let's have a look at the map. 15, yeah. This might make it. I'm not going to... It's really starting to heat up now as well. Oh my. Let's hope it doesn't overheat. Come on now. We are passing the Kármán, going to pass the Kármán line by a nice margin. 154, yeah, above 150 kilometers. So that is all it takes, even though it was a far from ideal launch. And I think this could have gone much higher if the launch clamp didn't bug out and started appear at an angle on the launch pad. So we're going into space. We're definitely doing it. So we'll have a lot of scientific experiments that we can collect. And the limit to space in this mod is 140 kilometers, which I want to kill the rotation of this. And now we can collect our scientific data in peace. We're going to transmit it as well. We should have more than enough electrical charge to do that. And telemetry, and some radiation impact telemetry, pressure data. Will this survive? I have a bad feeling about this. I think it's too heavy. I think we have no parachutes, but the temperature is going to kill it, I think. Or maybe not. Okay. Oh, now it's really starting to heat up. Oh, yeah, I don't think... will it survive? Will it? Oh, no, it's burning. It's starting to burn. It's going to be a miracle of this, actually. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay. Well, we got most of the experience, at least. But if you look at the first artificial satellites, you have to achieve orbit. At least a periapse of at least 150 kilometers. We could try that. I think that's doable with the tech we currently have. So now we have to design a rocket that can achieve orbit at above 150 kilometers. And I think a two-stage rocket would be... we could go for a simple two-stage rocket with the first stage reaching up to about 150 kilometers, and then have the second stage launch into, you know, whatever elliptical orbit above that. So we'll start off with this Sputnik type probe. What's that? Should I add a battery? I think I should. Use a procedural battery for this as well. And they can be really tiny because they weigh a lot, and weight is a big thing with the Realism Overhaul and Real Solar System. I'm also going to put a nice payload fairing. Yeah, completely forgot what that was actually called, but so let's just stick some procedural fairings on top there. And another thing I almost completely forgot is we need to add some guidance units, because this is going to solve the problem we had of insufficient avionics. So this unit, for example, means you can have a rocket of up to 20 tons and maintain control. So as long as, when we have this on, as long as the weight of the rocket is not above 20 tons, we have full control over it, which we're going to need. And now we need to design the actual second stage. I'm going to go for a 2 by 1 meter tank, and we now have a plethora of engines to choose from. And this is the Vanguard booster. It's booster engine used on the Vanguard launch vehicle. It's a Carolox engine. Let's see what kind of performance we get out of that. We just... oh, come on. This is way too powerful. I mean, thrust to weight ratio almost 6 is completely overkill for this. And you also need to keep in mind that we need probably about 9 kilometers per second of delta V to reach orbit. Let's see. This engine might be a bit more suitable, I think. Yeah, we can always go back and redesign later on. So I think we should have a interstage fairing as well. Go find that here. There's a lot of customization you can do, which is pretty nice. That can be 1 meter, I think. With, just as with the other fairing, we just snap that. Oh, no, that. Oh yeah. Of course, I need to add the extra height, and the top needs to be. It can be a little over 1 meter. And you see these blue lines indicate the height of the fairing. So this should be fine, and like that. And I think we should add a different color to this as well. We can add, I don't know. Really not that important, but let's go with German design, maybe. And for this first stage, it needs to be quite powerful. We'll go for a cone. If we, for steering, we also add fins. But I like the ones that give some control. So these standard canards. And then, of course, we can't forget the launch clamp. Go for 2 of those. Now, I'm not sure if this will be capable of reaching. Well, it will reach space, I'm fairly certain, but I don't know if this can reach orbits, but there's only one way to find out. So here we are, ready to launch our new rockets. Another thing I need to remember is to not have the engine start at the same time that launch clamps release, because the engine doesn't power up fully immediately. So if you just release the launch clamps at the same time we ignite the engine, it's not going to have enough thrust to get off the ground. But yeah, let's go for engine ignition. Just need to wait a couple of seconds, and there we go. And we're off. And, I think we're going to start going for a gravity turn fairly early on in flights. So I don't think this is going to reach orbits at all. It's just not. It's going to go into space, but it doesn't have the delta V really, and especially with the poor launch profile. But we have tried. Turn it over completely. We can decouple the first stage. We can also take off the payload fairings since we're almost into space already. And you can see that something I didn't mention is that I added these Eulogy Thrusters, which are needed to ignite an engine in space. So basically, this doesn't need, no, it doesn't need, yeah, you can see the propellant status is very unstable. So you need, I mean, you need some thrust or some G forces to basically stabilize the fuel, I make sure that it is flowing towards the bottom, flowing into the rocket engine, I think. Something like that. Yeah. And let's just ignite these, and then we're off with second stage. Let's see if this can make it. So orbital speed, I think is 8,000 some meters per second, which is why I said we needed about 9 kilometers of delta V to reach orbit, because you also have to account for the atmosphere affecting the acceleration of the rockets at the start of the launch. And also human error, which is definitely a thing in this particular situation. But this might actually do the trick. You can also, another thing is, you can see we have 0 ignitions remaining. And that's the thing with most of the rockets in Realism Overhaul, is that you have only 1 ignition and no throttle. So the engine is either on or off. And if you turn it off, you can't turn it on. There are some specialized engines that have throttling and can be ignited many times, but we don't have access to them at the start of the game. And that makes the launch into space quite tricky. If you're going for orbits, I mean, you can't just turn it off and on like you would do in vanilla KSP. And this is not reaching orbit now. Oh well. We are going to make another try at reaching orbit, but I think that will have to be for another episode. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in a future episode of KSP Realism Overhaul.